So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage, from where then we obtain the many understandings of the time of the end, as per then the prophet YershiYAhu, the 61st chapter, where then we understand the time of restoration of the holy cities of the Messiah, because he said very clearly, go therefore around the world and establish tabernacling. Tabernacling is a continuation, first service and second service combined. So then when you read Galah or Revelation, the two menorahs, then you understand what it means. So then, during this time where then the nations are preparing themselves for the time of the end, it is very imperative to understand what the Messiah said regarding the time of the end. So then in the Goyim, Luke and Mark, both of them explained many areas of the end. So let's verify from the viewpoint of the Gentile person, Luke. Then the Messiah is speaking. For they were eating and drinking and taking wives and giving them to husbands until the day that Noah entered the ark, and the Vesuvius came and destroyed them. And again, as it was in the days of Lot, that they were eating and drinking and buying and having trade and planting and were building. But on the day that Lot went out of Sodom, then rained down fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them. Thus wilt be in a day that the Son of Man, then speaking of the Messiah himself, showing up in heaven, then gather his people. In a day, then he explains of the house, don't go up, don't waste your time, and so on and so forth. So then the Messiah is explaining what is going to be then during the time of the end. People are going to be caught unaware. This is what the Messiah is saying. As during the time of Noah, and Noah was walking around, he was explaining what went on. They mocked, they rebelled, and then the Vesuvius came and had taken them, destroyed. So during the time of Sodom, in terms of the wife of Lot, she did not become a column of salt. So then when you read in your scripture of whatsoever kind of translation you have is wrong. You have to understand the original manuscripts. So then you have to study. It's not only mere being part of a church and then talking junk. You have to do what the Messiah says. Search the scriptures diligently. There was no column of salt. Speaking of Sodom, simply the wife of Lot. She went out of the city many times, but during the time of going out of the city and leaving behind, then she went back to the city. It wasn't that she observed behind and became a column of salt. Come on, don't be ridiculous. Those were understandings of the Romans when during the time when they were active, then they used to receive then columns of salt as part of the salt rations. But then when the Romans began to then translate the scripture because they want control of the political understanding of the time for their benefit, then they scoundrelize the scripture. So then you have in your scripture is scoundrelized because it was concocted during the time of the 1,000 years of deceit. That's why you have then a scoundrelized scripture. So then regarding the time of the end, then the Messiah is explaining people are going to be caught unaware. So the governments as we know today, they were then most of them updated and modernized during the time of the 1,000 years of the deceit. We won't be doing politics as we did in the past. Don't we not realize that the Creator has His hands of the future and upon the future? He has the control of it, and He has given to His people, explaining then first contact with the first human being. Who was the first human being? Ibrahim. What do you understand the first son and the second son? The first son has the leadership of trade. The second son, tabernacling, plan of salvation. The world is not going to be as used to be in the past. Either if you have your own understanding in your own country of your politics, of your economics, or what you think should be, or your religious preference. What's coming in the future is the absolutely certainty and exacting plan of the Chinese. This is what's coming. When you read then in Galah, Revelation, you understand the third part of the ships, 8th chapter, already speaking of the autumn feast. Why autumn feast? Because of the sounding of the shofar. So then you understand there is a country, a region over there that's going to lead then the world's market in terms of the production of the bulk. And then nations that is going to start to come out of poverty. As they do, must have a leadership of the world in terms of what decisions should be made. So far, as we understand during these last 1,000 years, the Bilderberg brothers and those kinds of religious activity were then scandalizing the entire understanding, because they were from the time of the seat. It was random, going to and fro, confusion. But then we are during the time of restoration and reduction. Either we understand what's coming in the future or we don't. Those that do not, they're going to be caught unawares. There is no longer a system of only a country. There is the Chinese system. It's going to be then neutral for every nation. Try to understand why then these nations is so then popular during the time of the end. Every nation is going to be doing trade with China. They get the cheapest product. That's what you get, your bulk. And then each country, they should have their own system. So each country, they would have at least a couple of systems of earnings. Our country, USA, we became ostriches. Our government stupidly did not understand the scripture, and they built a huge fort over there in the Ozarks, in the center of our country, because our government is acting as ostriches. They don't understand how to cope with the problems, and they go into a cave. 12 gates, if they have some relation with some sort of a scripture. That's what our government is doing. They're sticking their heads in a cave as an ostrich. In the other countries, when the Chinese system comes, they're going to sense themselves as being ostriches, because they're going to be caught unawares. Next 36 months, the IMF already predicted. And there are a lot of countries around the world tied up with our economy. When it goes down, it drags the others. And then when the Chinese system comes, then the citizens are going to download the system in their computers, and they're going to do trade. An international portion of it. How are the governments going to take away their taxes from? Because they're going to cheat during the time of tax filing. No, the politicians are not as smart as they thought, huh? Don't they realize they have to have at least a dual system in their countries? One of them only for the Chinese, and the other for them in order to gather the taxes from each transaction where there is earning. So let's try not to be like the Americans, huh? being like ostriches. Going over there in the midst of the Ozarks, in the midst of the forest over there, and they're building this 72,000 squares building underground, roads and so on and so forth, and farming underground. So the politicians and the rich are going underground. What kind of a monetary system are they going to use? How are they going to get crude? They're stupid. At least they have 12 gates, huh? They read that somewhere. Stupid scoundrels. Thieves. They're stealing the money of the people to build their own junk. So then other nations, in order for them not to be caught unawares, they should understand. When the Chinese system comes, it's absolutely precise. People are going to download the system in their computers, and they are online, worldwide, doing trade worldwide, investing in the Chinese system. That's why when you read in Revelation, Galah, every nation of the earth doing trade with China. But then people like to cling to their knowledge. They like, the old-fashioned. They like the old junk, where they don't understand what's coming in the future, and they think they have the ability of circumventing the plan of the Creator. Well, they're wrong. The leadership of the world is no longer in the hands of Nahashatan. His 1,000 years is gone. The Creator has an agenda for the end, and we are in line with it, or we are caught unawares. And the Messiah already explained it. And they were given to relationships and having families and having a dog, building a barn and having plantations and going over there and taking a ride and so on and so forth. And then comes the end. This is what the Messiah is explaining. So let's try not be ostriches. The deal of every nation on the planet coming up with their own computerized system where they can deduct taxes for every transaction made where there are earnings. Can be a set of them or combination of them or a single transaction. Anytime there is earning, government should take away the tax. Must be automatic. Always money coming in, always money going out. If they don't do this, when the market crashes and the Chinese then they come over, it's going to be absolutely no mercy. Because the computerized system is exact. Either you have what it takes in the government to get people paid and move on with the government, or they don't have it. You can't print out more money indiscriminately. Because people are then doing trade with a system outside of the nation's system. You don't understand at the moment. That's okay. You will understand. The great prophet Daniel from the Israelic lineage said, and then at the time of the end, knowledge would increase. Why do you use knowledge for? Trade. He was a tradesperson. Where do you get knowledge? From computer. How is it that the Chinese are going to take over? Via the computer. They have this system already, but they don't want to say it, obviously. Not until the time comes, because they know they're going to lead the market and the main decisions from country to country as they are then enriched are going through the hands of the Ishmaelites. Where do you find the most prominent Ishmaelites? In Arabia. That's where the main understanding comes from. There is no other way around it. Whatsoever we learn of the past is gone. We are during a time of restoration and reduction, and the leadership is in the hand of the Creator. Either we understand and go along with it, or we destroy ourselves. And the system of the Chinese is worldwide. People are going to download on their computers, and there they are doing trade around the world. If the nations don't have a specific system to take away their taxes, they won't have any taxes. Because transfer of number from their banking to this system is going to be very quick. So then the world is going to change overnight when the time comes. So every nation of the planet will do trade with China, as per Scripture. There is no news. Those were known in the past. So then we know what to do. As far as a nation, we should instruct our government not become ostriches, and then start doing the work. We understand Mr. Bernanke has a lot of work. It's a tremendous amount of work. Because every citizen doing trade via computer, every transaction where there is earning, they must remove the taxes from. It is imperative every time there is a transaction. When the Chinese comes, then we will have the brunt of it. It is the ace card they are hiding for centuries. So let's be smart, because they are coming. They are already linked up with the Citigroup. Then the house bust some time ago. The mortgages, the scandal. They already purchased it. Not because they have any value. Those mortgages are a piece of junk. But they want the system. As they have their hands on the junk, they organize via their own system. Then when the time comes, then they understand. And then we Americans, our government goes into cave. God-fearing nation, huh? Ostriches. Reading scandalized scripture, then the government goes into the caves as an ostrich. You know the size of the place over there in the Ozarks? The underground is 50 million squares underground. It won't be used because they are stupid. It's going to remain above ground as it is. As the tax reform takes place and they understand the importance of removing tax every time there is a transaction related with earnings, what are going to use those places for? Well, there it is. The money of many citizens of U.S., it's over there. junky underground system. Rather than spending in coal power plants, updating our grids, yeah, that's what scandalized scripture can do to you. Drives you to the ground, like ostriches. So let's try to understand what the Creator has in mind, and then line up ourselves with it, and understanding the time of the past, the 1,000 years of deceit, the random going up and down, and then a nation then is stronger, the other nation takes the leadership and then goes to the other. It's no longer this way. The path until the closing of the age is already set, and it's not news. It was already set a long time ago. It's time of restoration. Let's be aware of the facts coming in the future, and if any country then found without a computerized system where every citizen then contributes with tribute or taxes every time there is earning of any transaction, if they don't have these ready in the next 36 months, as per the prediction of IMF. Very important. The markets around the world, they're going to be caught unawares. And the Chinese have no time for BS. Neither countries that think themselves as ostriches. So please stay tuned.